Oh, hey, come on in. Let's go talk about pocket knives.
So today I have 3 more maker knives that we're just going to do some real quick repairs on and see how they turn out. First is a Moore Maker Trapper that I've owned for at least 5 or 6 years. It appears to have been made possibly by the Queen Company, though I can't tell for sure. The original owner's initials are engraved into the knife. I've kept it in my project pile expecting to rehandle it one day, but I think first I may try to sand out those initials. They appear fairly deep, so if this doesn't work, then I will go ahead and replace the handles. This knife had evidently been lost along with someone's luggage because I bought it from a company that resells lost luggage items from airlines. Now, I did not get my cameras aligned well, so you can't see the work up close, but I use a 120 grit belt, then move up to a 400 grit belt. And it worked. With just a little bit of polish, this great knife will be ready to use again. Now, used to in past, I went up through several different finer grades of sandpaper before I polished, but I've learned from a great knife mechanic that I can go straight from a 400 grit belt to the polisher. Now, this handle is a bit thinner on this side now, but I honestly would not have noticed it if I weren't looking for the difference. This knife has been in storage for several years and has picked up some spots on the carbon steel blades, so I'll also polish them just a bit before I finish. Next up is another Moore Maker Trapper, this one in red plastic, which has a missing shield. I happen to have a shield from another knife that I rehandled. First, I'll clean all of the old glue off the back side of the shield. Then I scrape and clean out the old glue from the handle. New glue will not adhere on top of old, so prep work is actually more important than the brand of glue that you use. Now I'll spread the glue around with a craft stick and make sure to coat the entire hole and all around the sides of it. Then I push the shield into place. It doesn't sit in place straight at first, one edge is standing out a bit. So I pop it out and reinsert it again. Once it's in place, I wipe away the excess glue and clamp it. After the glue is cured, I sand the handles lightly. The clamp squeezes out a little more glue, and no matter how hard I try, the shield rarely fits perfectly smooth all the way around. So we'll sand it carefully to get the shield flush with the surrounding handle material. I do not sand off enough to lighten the words stamped into the shield, only enough to smooth that edge. Then we'll polish it. The final knife on this video of More Maker repairs is this Stockman, which also has a missing shield. I've already used the only factory shield that I have on hand, so for this knife, I'll take a larger shield and sand it down to fit. The shield that I'm working on here started out as a Dux Unlimited shield that originally came from the Schrade factory. I was able to buy several parts that came from their bankruptcy auction. I start by reshaping the left side until it fits into the curve of the hole in the handle. Now this is taking longer than I expected, so I moved down to a 180 grit belt. Once I have that left side shaped to fit, I grind off a flat spot on the right hand side and keep going till I have it the correct length. Once there, I begin rounding that off to fit. This becomes a very tedious process of sanding, comparing, and sanding more until things finally fit. As you can imagine, this completely messes up the Dux Unlimited imprint on the shield, but that's okay. I'm going to be gluing it in upside down, leaving the smooth backside facing outward. Now that I have it close, I'll finish it off with a file to get the fit just as perfect as I can. Just like on the last knife, I scrape off all the old glue. Now, in retrospect, I should have cleaned both the shield and the handle with denatured alcohol before applying the glue, but I got excited and forgot it on both of these knives. The good news is that this polyurethane glue holds well anyway, and it has a good track record of retaining shields. This shield was standing out from the handle quite a bit. Now that's actually a good thing, as the sharp edges left from sanding around it look odd on the knife. So after sanding it flush with the handles, I'll have a much more natural look to the shield. I do have to be very careful and work slowly, as it's very easy to overheat and melt plastic handles. So I'll sand a little bit, pull the knife away, feel of it, sand a little more. I'm not only checking to see how smooth the shield is, but also checking the temperature of it. Patience is the key. Okay, guys, well, we will review these knives that I finished up here. This is the Moormaker Bone Handle Trapper. Now, I want to go ahead and apologize for my voice. It's a little raspy. I have either had a very bad cold or a mild case of death. I'm not sure. But the good news is I'm stuck at home, so I can play with knives for a little bit and edit videos. The bad news is my voice may go out before I'm finished with this analysis. But yeah, this knife turned out great. I can still, when I look, I can barely see the edge of the B from those initials that were in there, but only when I'm looking for it. But you still have this beautiful texture of bone. I had held this knife back for a few years in my project pile, waiting for a chance to find the perfect handles for it. And I'm glad to find out that I could sand this down and get it to work, because I think these handles are the perfect handles for it. You have this beautiful variation of color in the bone, a beautiful crimson red. It's just, it's a wonderful knife. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. Great snap to it. Again, I think this one might have been made by Queen. Moormaker used different companies to make knives for them, but they have them made to some very exacting standards. So any Moormaker knife you get, no matter who the manufacturer was, is a great high quality knife. They accept nothing less. We've already got the beginnings of a patina on the blades, even though I polished them. You can see there's still a few freckles there. Now, that's one thing I love about carbon steel blades. Used to, I was like most people, I wanted bright, shiny blades, so I loved stainless steels. But after collecting more knives, and especially some old knives, these carbon steel and the patina they build up gives the knife character. To me, it's a lot prettier than just an ultra shiny stainless steel blade. Now, your opinion may differ, and that's fine, but that's my opinion on them now. So I'm actually pleased that that's beginning to build a patina. I have not decided yet whether I will keep this knife or put it in my store. It does have a crack across it, and I did not notice that until after I had done the work polished it. I think the polishing compound got into that crack and probably made it show up a little more. So it is not perfect, but in fact, still got a little polishing compound there. But sometimes as you work on them, you will find certain flaws and things in a knife. So it is a used knife. I don't know who owned it previously. As I said, this came from a company where they sell off items from luggage that's been lost in the airlines, and they obtain that luggage and they sell off the items. And I've had it for several years. So whoever that was, I've always felt a little sorry for him, because he lost a very beautiful knife. But this one is restored enough that anyone can carry it and be proud of it. I've just got to decide whether that someone is going to be me or someone else. But now we'll look at the other knives. All right, the second Moormaker with the plastic handles, another good knife. Again, carbon steel blades, good snap to them. I really enjoy Moormaker knives. Again, you really can't beat their quality. The shield looks great in it. As I said, that came out of a Moormaker when I had rehandled and was not reusing the shield on. Another beauty. Again, the plastic just does not have the same look and a beautiful texture as the bone. You can see the two side by side there, but it does have more durability. The plastic, it's not going to crack if you drop it. It's not going to chip out and break if you handle the knife roughly. But still, it's a beauty. Could probably use a little more polishing on it, but I think it turned out well, and I'm happy with this one. All right, we'll finish up reviewing these knives, and our trio of Moormaker knives. This is the Stockman where I made the shield, and it turned out a little better than some of the other shield replacements that I've done. As you can see, it fits well. It does stand slightly proud, just enough you can feel it, but not enough that it catches on anything. The edges are rounded and look nice. Now, one thing that was a pleasant surprise to me is the material of the shield was brass. Now, it was hard to know because it was coated with an ultra shiny fake brass finish. And when I had done a test of the shield, as I sanded on it, there was what looked like silvered metal underneath. So I thought it might have been nickel silver, but actually it was just a couple of layers. Underneath that silvered looking layer was a thin layer of copper, and then underneath that is the brass. So once I got sanded through all of that, I think it looks much better than that fake shiny coating, brass colored coating that's put on. Natural brass is just prettier. But yeah, it does not look like the Moore Maker knife, but it looks like a knife with a shield, and I think that turned out well. Now, I've done some other shields in the past, and I'll show you some of those in a moment. But yeah, this knife turned out well. As I said, any Moore Maker by any manufacturer is a very good quality. Now, I did have some buildup from the sanding belts and the polisher, so I came home and cleaned this up with 2000 grit sandpaper, which left scratches on the knife. I need to go back and polish the bolsters, but just as a test, I polished the shield with a rotary tool, because again, I'm stuck at home and I can't go to the shop that's at my parents' house, but I use my cordless rotary tool with a little buffing wheel on it. And for polishing compound, I use toothpaste. So not only did it do a great job of polishing that, but it left the knife smelling minty fresh. So I'm very, very pleased with how this one turned out. Like I said, a little more polish on the ends, and this knife will be ready to go, whatever we do with it. I haven't, again, decided whether I'm going to keep that one or sell it, but I do really like that. And I'm going to show you some other shields that I've made, and the pros and cons of them. Now, the shield here, these are both Sharp brand knives made by some Japanese companies, sold through Kmart. This is what the original shield looked like, but when I got this knife, it had a missing shield. So I made one, again, took, I think an old-timer shield or something like that, flipped it over and ground it to fit. What I did not do is go back later and sand the entire thing. I didn't leave it sitting proud to sand it down. So you can see here, if I can get my little toothpick again to point this out, the original has the smooth edges around it. This one has kind of sharp edges. And so it just doesn't look as well. Doesn't look as good as the original. And that's one of the things the polishing does. It brings that down. So yeah, if you make a shield, let it sit a little bit proud, sand it down to match, and it rounds off the edges of the shield. Makes it look much better. You can see a huge difference in the I call it the edge texture, if you would, of these two shields. This one is, rounded on the edges. This one's very sharp on the edges and just doesn't look quite right. But that was one of the earlier ones I've done. Here's another I did years ago on a case knife, and I love how this one turned out. What I did is took a piece of brass tubing, cut it, and put it in there like the letter C. Just shaped it a little bit, poured some epoxy on there with some green paint in it. Now, the thing about using paint rather than the powdered pigments is it dried with sort of a dull finish. So I should have used some powdered pigments, but that's one of the ways I learn is by experimenting and getting things wrong. But I still think it turned out very good for a homemade shield. That one turned out well. I could have contacted Case and tried to buy a shield, but again, this was a very inexpensive knife, and it's just a user. And sometimes I like to experiment around and try different things. So you can see between these two, I could have done something similar on this Moore Maker, and made a shield for it out of epoxy. Put something in it, a small, emblem or figure or ring of some sort. But different knives, different ways of doing it, but they both turn out very well, and I'm pleased with them. So yeah, if you have a similar situation where you're missing a shield, there are plenty of ways to replace them without having the original shield. Some take a little more work. Some, take a little more creativity. But either way, there are some great options out there. You don't have to leave a hole in the side of your knife. Well, I hope this has been informative and helpful, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. May God bless you. Bye.